Hello everyone, this is Glorkglunk and I'm here for the Glitch.cool takeover on Woolg's channel. And today we're going to be talking about Phaseplant and a little bit about the new update, a little bit about just random sound design in general. And basically what we're going to be doing is making a sound that takes a lot of inspiration from Woolg's controlled randomness in the punch department thing. But because this synth is getting talked a lot about in bass music circles, but not so much in glitch circles, I want to show off that it could do both of those things at once together. So it's going to be kind of a little bit of a hybrid sound type thing. So I just wanted to show you like what's possible with the new update and the kinds of sounds that we're gonna make before we get into it. This is something that I made before the update came out. It sounds like this. Kind of interesting, but yeah, it's not really a very practical sound. You might have to get pretty creative to find a use for it, but that's fine. Anyway, over here we have stuff that I made after the update came out, and brace yourself, there might be some wild frequencies that are about to happen. So you can hear that that's actually it's way more violent, but it's also got quite a bit of a solid bass at some points. Sometimes it doesn't, and that's kind of part of the fun. And here's another one. So yeah, those are really over the top, and that's the kind of sound that we're going to be making today. Um, and it's really only possible now that there's a few new things you can do with the hosts in here. If we turn off all these effects, let's see how this sounds. Like a terrible kick drum, sort of, with a pitch envelope that nobody would ever want. Um, but if we turn everything on, sounds like you, you know what you heard before. Uh, but if we take these two multipasses off, or three, let's see how it sounds. Very weak, very inconsistent too. Maybe there'll be an occasional. Some of those hits are kind of loud, but if we turn this on, that's immediately more interesting than over here. And so as you can see, the processing in multiband, in the multiband stuff really, is what's giving these sounds so much character while still being so unpredictable. And let's get right into making them. So we're gonna start out with a dry faceplant patch, and I'm just gonna use wavetable. But let's try something fairly simple, like yeah, let's do this sync power sign. It's kind of interesting. Um, oops, wrong channel. Sounds like pretty much nothing. Kind of gets a little bit squishy on the other end, and that's fun. So the first thing we're gonna do is just randomize the impulse. As you can see in these other ones, we went for really simple stuff too, like so kind of similar sounds in both, but we're gonna do something different here. So let's start off with a random modulator, and if we turn this chaos down, it won't move at all after you've triggered it, and it will still choose a different value for each note you hit. So I'm gonna add that to the wavetable position, and let's make that go all the way. As you can see, each time it's picking a new spot in the wavetable to play from, and I'm also going to randomize a pitch envelope on it, just a little bit. So let's put it on here. Any pitch parameter works. You could do it on shift, semi-sense, or harmonics. I'm just gonna do that because I don't know, I want to. So what I'm gonna do here is just make a ton of these randoms real quick, and I'm gonna randomize all of the points of the envelope with it. So if I go like this, and you want to keep the ranges kind of sane, otherwise you might just get things that resonate really, really high until you hold the key for a really long time. And I'm not really into that. Or low, or whatever. I don't know. Just you want it to be slightly consistent, otherwise it'll get all out of control. And let's go on. Gonna make the sustain go all the way down. And one more for release. Okay, so I don't like the amount of pitch modulation there. So let's turn that down. Oops. We want a random. And do this. Sounds good. And the next thing to do is to just start on the giant chain of effects that we're going to be making the mid-range and top end with. And you might have noticed I turned on poly here, and that's because all these random modulators, they won't randomize per note on the effects lanes unless the poly is on. Even if you set it to one voice, for example, it will still re-trigger all of the effects and set them to a new value each time you hit a note if poly is on that lane. If there's no poly on, it'll just work like normal effects, and the tails will keep going on, but they'll be added to by the audio that comes in. So it's pretty significant difference when we're making a sound like this. And I love to start with a resonator. Honestly, it's just cool because it adds some kind of weird tonality that sounds, I don't know. Yeah, it adds an interesting texture. And you'll probably see what I mean immediately. I want to take it down in pitch a lot and also randomize it further. It's way too loud. I'm sorry about that. And on that note, I want to start things off right and just put a fake OTT preset on here. And where'd it go? Oh yeah. So this is a really shoddy preset that I made that is meant to sound kind of like OTT, but I forgot to change some settings to be the way that I wanted. So it's really quite bad, but it absolutely will do the job here. I can guarantee it. So that's already wild. I'm gonna randomize the volume envelope because it's way too intense when I hold it down for too long. So, and we can just randomize as many things as we want pretty much in Phaseplant because there's really no limit. Well, there is probably a limit to the number of random modulators, but I don't know it off the top of my head. And now we've got some kind of interesting, more transient-y stuff going on. But it all feels very kind of like tonal and delay-y. So I want to get it more messed up and atonal. And to do that, there are really two main effects that are really good for dissonance. I'm gonna close this. In Phaseplant and the Kilohertz library in general, well, there you could probably use other things for it, but the best things off the top of my head are the ring mod and the frequency shifter. So I'm gonna go with the ring mod at first, and randomize the frequency. But one other thing you can do if you want, which I don't want to do right now, is use another group or another modulator. Like if I was to make a group here, I could use saw wave, for example, if I set this to sideband, if I made an output here and set it to sideband, and then set the ring mod over here to sideband. But we're not going to do that today, because I just want a sine wave, and guess what? It has a sine wave built in. So, oh, I'm very sorry about that. I'm going to keep it on the lower end so that that doesn't happen as much. So that's getting interesting, but you might be thinking, oh, it's kind of got it's really really resonant, and it really hurts my ears a lot. So I'm going to add some more random frequencies to it with a little bit of reverb and bit crushing actually, which is again another trick I picked up from Woolg. So we add a reverb here. And then we add a bit crusher over here. And you don't want the downsample, well, unless you like that sound, but I'm not that into it. But the bit crushing is necessary for this kind of effect. That sputter and that noisiness at the end, that's due to the bit crushing. And I'm also going to distort it just a little bit because I think that'll also do something interesting. And then I'm going to randomize this bit crusher, of course, because that's the spirit of the tutorial. All right. And I think this is getting a little bit, yeah, it's a little bit loud. So I'm just gonna turn the output gain down just very slightly to make room for the sub that we're going to add right now. And I'm just gonna turn this group that I made earlier for the sideband into a sub. Wow, amazing. And I'm just gonna use this one wavetable that I really, or these two, wait, one of these two that I really love. to make a sub, and the way that I'm going to do that is pretty similar to what I did for this sound up here, except I'm going to just make the envelope slightly more controlled, so it's always got a bit of a punch to it. And here we go. I'm probably just going to randomize the decay time. And just a little bit. Now I assign this to, I don't know, let's just do harmonics. And I think I'll also randomize the depth too. And so now what's happening is this is being sent to lane 2, and then this is being sent to lane 1 and process through all that stuff, and this is skipping that. But if I was to put an effect on here, I was to put, like, I don't know, distortion will probably be the most obvious. You can probably hear them. Sorry about that. I'm just going to put a limiter. You could probably hear them pushing into each other and sounding nasty. And we don't really want that, so I'm going to send lane 1 directly to lane 3, where they're going to be processed together. And I don't actually want this much distortion on the sub. And now we got a kind of interesting tail, but I think we can get more going on here on this one. I just want some disperser to make things a little bit squishier, especially the sputtery parts at the end of the tail. I want more distortion, even more. Maybe this distortion wants to be after the not OTT. Okay, that's a little bit more interesting. It's a little bit much. But I think that can work. Oops. I meant to copy this over here, actually, because I want to glue everything together. And there's one last thing that I want to do now that we've got this layer kind of worked out. And that's just take the compression and actually just take the entire low band out, because we want to keep the... Well, just because we can keep that area relatively clean, we might as well. I know not everyone who is making really weird glitch sound design will necessarily agree with that thought process, but I certainly like to do it. And one other thing I'm going to do, which again takes advantage of the new update, is I'm going to add a little bit of noise to the sub. And let's see how this sounds. I think that this is a little bit too loud, perhaps. Also, maybe this could be longer. Or maybe this is just too smashed or something. Let's... something like this. Okay, I'm going to randomize the amount of that noise effect as well on our sub. Just gonna randomize the mix. Honestly, I could go a lot more in detail because this effect can sort of sound sawy or not, but yeah, I'm not really too worried about exactly making it all as chaotic as possible right now. So next is I'm actually going to randomize the level of the sub a little bit. Just a teeny bit. Gonna randomize the decay and sustain. So that it's not always so overwhelming, but mostly it is. And the last thing that I like to do in these sounds now is to put something in here that kind of glues the two together. And one of my favorite choices for that is ring modding the high band by the low band, and also tuning a frequency shift, tuning a resonator, not a frequency shifter. Although it's nice to tune frequency shifters, but that's not possible in Phaseplant right now. A resonator or a ring mod to the pitch of the sub bass. Wait, no, resonator. And let's try moving some effects around in the chain, just in case. I'm not sure that I like this bit crush every single time. Kind of interesting, actually. All right. So that, just so you know, when I mapped this note modulator earlier, it was mapping it to the same note that the that I play on the keyboard, which is the same note that the sub bass ends up resting on when the envelope is done. So yeah, that's about it from me, and thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and maybe you will use Phaseplant. All right, have a good day.